Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Spiritual Chat Live. Today, I have a very special guest. It's my dear friend Max Lowen. She is a survivor of SRA and MK Ultra, and she's a survivor of the Vatican. Yes, that Vatican in Italy. So we're going to allow her to tell her story, and then we're going to dive into some things today that's going to help awaken you to how we've all been MK Ultra and how we can awaken from that. And Max has some really cool seminars on her website that you can purchase. And she's got a lot of cool interviews on her website, which is unbroken.global. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, Rumble. She now is back on YouTube after being banned for almost 3 years. So she has a lot of cool interviews on there. I was on there the other day and I was just trying to go through and look at everything that you have on there. And you've got a lot of cool stuff. So welcome, Max. So let's just dive in and tell everybody about yourself, about your story. Just pretend like no one knows anything.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, regarding YouTube, yeah, I was banned or terminated 2 years ago, and they just allowed me to come back. And so I haven't loaded up a lot of the interviews since 2 years ago because I want to be choosy. Some are outright banned, so I'm gonna have to be choosy what's on there, but they're all on Rumble and the website, just in case
Yeah.
people want to watch the more banned ones. Yeah.
What do they
So
consider banned anyway? What's their
what's
what's what's their terminology for banned?
uh I forget what the terminology is, and it just seems kind of random. I mean, I
Yeah.
say some, I say things that contradict the official narrative in all manner of ways, so I just never know which one will be
Yeah.
targeted.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a flip the coin kind of thing. But your website has, I mean, all of your interviews you've done as well as what when you interview someone. So you have like a really
Yes.
good library on there. So
Yeah, there's 100 and I don't know how many. And yeah, because I try and cover all the different aspects of the global cult. So we all need to know how the world operates. So,
yes. Yes. So
yeah. And on that note, I have a little bit of an insider's view on how the world operates, um, because of the way that I grew up. So my Italian side of the family was cult affiliated, particularly an uncle of mine. My dad's American, my mom's Italian, and I grew up in a bunch of different countries in South America and Central America and Africa and in Europe as a child. And then when I was 18, I was able to come to the United States. And that's when I got away. But for the first 18 years, no matter what country I lived in, my uncle would sometimes come there, sometimes take me and fly me to different places like New York, for under the UN child trafficking stuff. But we would also go to Rome every summer holiday and every winter holiday. And then when I was 14, my parents divorced, so I moved to Rome full time. And so all the times that I was in Rome, I was taken to an underground facility, which these exist in everywhere in the world. There's a lot of underground facilities. Some are more military. The Jesuit ones are just humongous, like cities. And so this one was really, really big. And I was taken there and tortured in a lot of different ways. And I just want to say that the ways that I was tortured are the ways that other survivors of SRA and MK Ultra are tortured. So it's not, unique to me. But things like electric shock, being buried alive. I was buried alive with dead bodies,
mhm.
being put in extremes of temperature. So I was locked in this kind of large industrial freezer, being hung upside down, which after a while gets really, really uncomfortable. rape, beatings, um, having to watch animals and other people be tortured to death, which to me was the worst form of torture that there is. Being kept in cages, in isolation, in special boxes, where you have no sense of time anymore, or light, or space, or anything like that. And then medical experiments and things like these helmets that had wires coming out, and I had to wear these goggles. So they had a lot of sort of virtual technology. And, this was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So there's technology that far more advanced than we know in these kinds of places. So that kind of gives you a sense of that. And there was an underground tunnel from this facility to the subterranean levels of the Vatican. Now, this is well below the tombs, and people say, oh, I've heard of, no, it's really far under the ground. And I unfortunately several times witnessed babies and toddlers and small children be brought in. It was a special room with a big altar, and they would be completely and horrifically brutalized, which gets the terror going, which gets the adrenaline going. And then they would be laid on the altar and sacrificed with a special knife. They would start cutting from here while the child was alive. And they would collect the blood, and there would be many people, sort of VIPs in attendance. And they would pass around these chalices with the blood and drink it. Sometimes they would pluck out the heart and just eat it right then and there. These people also kill and cook babies. So I've seen babies be served on platters at the elite VIP parties that I was taken to. So that's another thing besides the Vatican. Some were indoors. So if you ever saw the movie Eyes Wide Shut, which I went to see with a friend, I had to run out of the theater within just a few minutes. It was so triggering for me, but the only thing missing there is the children. But everyone's dressed up, sometimes they're masked, and the children are brought in, a bunch of children, different ages, different genders, different races for the pedophiles to choose. And then some of the parties were like in sort of big mansion-like places on grounds. So there were more hunting parties, it was more during the day. So the children would be told to run and hide, and then they would be hunted. And when caught, would be raped or whatever the people wanted to do. And they would always sacrifice at least one child at the end of these parties. Um, in one of them, I witnessed someone had a very long kind of sword, and they impaled some babies right on the sword and was swinging it around. There would be laughter, partying, drugs, alcohol. These people are cruel and just inhuman, really, truly, actually inhuman. So it's something that when I share it, I think it's shocking. It's beyond shocking to people, because we as humans who have a heart and feel, we could never do anything like that. And it's hard enough to even hear about it and see it. But this is the reality of who these people are. They're psychopaths, they're pedophiles, they're Satanists. So a lot of these sacrifices and crazy things that they do are all in homage to Lucifer, and to summon in, if you create such an event, like you sacrifice or brutalize a child, then it opens up a portal. And so they bring in entities into this realm, sometimes into their own bodies. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of a slice of the reality. And again, I'm not the only one. I'm very heartened to see a lot of other survivors have come out and told their stories. And one thing that's very interesting is how our stories overlap, how similar it is, the ways they tortured us. These people have a playbook. And so, as you alluded to in the beginning, what they did to us, it's scientific. They studied it, Mengele, the Jesuits are the most horrible creatures alive. And so there's a way to use trauma-based mind control, which they also in parallel use on all of the human collective. So,
Right. And I think what's really hard for people to understand is that most of these people are who they see every day on
yeah,
television, in newspapers, in magazines. And so it's really hard for them to believe because they think they know them. They don't really know them. And they think they know them, but they don't. And it all boils down to the children. And I think that's really hard for people to understand too. It's sacrificing the children. And
yes.
that's what it's always been for thousands of years. And I want to thank you for sharing your story because I know it's really, really hard to do that. And it brings up a lot of stuff. So I want to thank you for doing that because each time you do that, it helps awaken someone. And if it awakens one person, then they can share your story and that just flows on and on and on. So thank you for doing that, Max.
Yeah. And I just want to point out something you said made me think of this. Satanism is the inversion of what we would call God, the creator, the life force, love. So the reason they particularly target babies and children is because that is the closest thing you can be or have to God. That's a soul that's just been in a woman and gotten a body and come out into this reality. So this is their primary thing. It's also the purest energy to steal and harvest, but it's also kind of an FU to the creator. And so everything that's of nature and natural, they will invert. And there's probably nothing less natural than harming a baby. So that's what they love to do.
Right. Why don't we talk about how we have all been MK Ultra? Because that's how you can help awaken people. Because when I try to share your story or Rachel's story or Doug McIntyre or anyone's story, and people, it just seems like they start to gloss over in the eyes, or they'll say, well, that doesn't pertain to me. And I'm like, yes, it does. Like it does. And I will keep talking, I keep planting the seed. I keep saying, and not in an aggressive way, but I just keep talking about it because I realize when I'm sharing your stories and I'm trying to awaken people, I'm realizing how brainwashed the world has been. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So in after World War One or around World War One, for example, the Tavistock Institute was created, and they one problem they had is that men didn't want to shoot and kill other human beings because, of course, that's not natural to us. That's a satanic thing.
Yeah.
And so they really worked on mind control to get these soldiers to be able to kill. So that's kind of where that's not where it started. It's much older than that, but that's a sort of more modern version where psychiatry came into the picture. And then after World War II, if you look at the Tavistock mission statement, they literally said that they were going to use future shock to create a mind-controlled population that would be easily herded into the new world order, the one world government. So this is a plan that was executed a long, long time ago. And so they have this playbook, and the one of the main things is trauma. So it's trauma-based mind control. So if you heavily traumatize a person, you shock them, you shatter them, they dissociate, they're fragmented. And then in that blank state, you can see when someone's in shock because their eyes are just blank. That's when then the programming gets successfully inserted. So the Jesuits, along with Mengele brought in a whole new thing to the picture, which is you can start the trauma in utero. Okay. So prior to that, it was started maybe at age 2 or 3, but now Mengele, in all his glory, brought it over to in utero to traumatize the baby, starting even then. So it's this whole playbook, but it's used and it's been studied on individuals, but it's then used on the collective. So for example, look at the modern day situation where women go and give birth in a hospital. Okay. That's already set up to be traumatizing. It's ugly, it's cold, it's metallic, it's not natural. Women are told to lay down, they're injected with drugs. And then when so the birth is worse than it needs to be. And then when the baby comes out, we've all seen these pictures and it's in movies and everything. You have the babies all in their little bassinets in this one room, right? And then there's a glass and the relatives go and stare and go, oh, that's the baby, that's completely psychotic. I mean, if you look at all mammals, when dogs have puppies or cats have kittens, they're all on the body because attachment is the number one most important predictor of future mental health in a human being. It's more important than food, okay?
Yeah.
Studies have shown that. So what do? They set it up in such a way that they take your baby away from you after it's born. Of course, let's not, forget they inject it with all kinds of stuff to start the process. That's a whole nother level of mind control I'll talk about in a sec. But so the attachment bond, they try and break it right from birth. Okay. Even drugging mothers to the point that they can't, hold their infant right after birth. Those seconds right after are critical for the baby. The United States has put out a position globally that they discourage and don't agree with breastfeeding. Somehow that's not a good thing, which is completely, of course, the opposite. It's very bonding, and the breast milk is the best food a baby can have. I gave birth in 2003, and they tried like hell to take my daughter and put her in. They thought I was crazy because I wanted to keep her on my body. I wouldn't even put her in the little thingy next to me. I just instinctively knew. So this is very deliberately done. And it's so that's one way, for example, right from birth, that we're mind controlled. And then parents are encouraged to take their infants home and put them in a crib, which if you think of a crib, it looks like, little bars on a cage. Have the baby in a separate room from you. I mean, again, that is the most unnatural thing for a being that's just been floating around inside you and suddenly is sleeping by itself. I mean, adults don't want to sleep by themselves, right?
Right.
Then we have things like, this is a more modern phenomenon, like, oh, and I just want to say, because Sunyin is here, and I know she, from her culture and people from other cultures, they don't necessarily sleep separate from their babies, which is great, right?
Yeah.
So then they started with, this idea of preschool or kindergarten even. So it's feminism was planned and created. And it's not to say, I mean, some good and truth in these movements. And if they start organically, just go in and twist it around. The movement, for example, encourage children in daycare, preschool. If you've school scandals, how many of those have, exploded with sexual abuse and satanic ritual abuse scandals. But it also breaks attachment, right? So it takes the kid away from if you want to work as a mother in the United States, I think you have 6 weeks, and then you have to put your baby with someone else and go back to work. So the whole society is not set up to favor attachment. So that's one thing.
Right.
Um, they poison us. Do you want me to stop for a sec?
Oh no, I was checking the time. I just want to keep track on the time.
Okay.
You're fine. You're doing good.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So they another way they mind control us is by targeting our bodies. So
Yeah.
the genetically modified, pesticide sprayed, fast food, sugar in everything. So the food is designed to, because it dulls your mind. You can't think straight anymore. You can't. So
Yeah.
that's a factor. The chemtrails they spray in the air, the fluoride in the water, and then the Rockefeller medical system, which was actually created deliberately to sicken, profit from the sickness, and slow kill people, right? Vaccines are terrible. There's no good one, period, right?
No.
So all these are ways to physically poison the body. Then school, is designed to create mind-controlled slaves. You teach children to obey authority. The way you get an A is you regurgitate what you're told. They don't want critical thinking. They don't want creativity anymore. So the education system is designed to mind control. Then you have entertainment like Hollywood, where they will do things in movies and shows and TV sitcoms that things will play out that you then absorb as normal, and if you look from a few decades ago to today, that social engineering, the Overton window of sexualizing kids has played out in that form of entertainment where you look at things and supposedly 10-year-olds are all sexy and they want to date, but
Yeah.
that's grooming. That's putting that out there as a plant to parents, or even the teenage thing where teenagers are supposed to hate their parents, or, no, that's not true, but they're implanting all this culture into people. They've deliberately wanted to destroy the family unit because,
Yeah.
and not to say every family unit is good, but they want to destroy attachment and love and that protectiveness. The media, if you research Mockingbird media,
Mm.
they have literally, its inception, just like the medical system, was designed to propagandize us, to lie to us, to spin a reality that isn't true. And then we have something like government, which, if you break down the word to its Latin roots, literally means controlling the mind.
Yeah.
And that layer of people, presidents, politicians, governments, that's the bottom rung of the pyramid of power, and it's the face front to us below the public. And these people are basically actors. So then the mind control is this idea that there is a democracy. It doesn't matter what you have, democracy, communism, totality, it's all controlled, right? So, but the mind control is that we elect people, that we're given these people to choose from, which the binary choice itself is a form of mind control, right? And
Right.
then it's this idea that these people have authority. So this idea of authority is a huge mind control program. Um, we're trained from birth to think that certain people, because they wear a certain uniform, if they're a police or a military or a doctor or whatever, that they somehow are authority figures over us, and we need to obey and defer to their wisdom. Or, you never saw this more starkly than in, the last few years. I don't know how
Right.
many words I can say on here, but
Yeah.
the plandemic,
Yeah.
where, it's this authority figure, and, no, they get to tell you what to do. They even get to tell you what you have to wear over your face. They even get to tell you if you can go visit your relatives, or if you can even go to work or fly on airplanes or go to a
Yeah.
restaurant. Like, it got to an extreme there, but it's actually already extreme. It's completely insane if you stop to take a step back, that these entities called the government or Child Protective Services, for as another example,
Hmm.
get to decide what to do with you. you
Right.
know. So all of these systems, by the way, are satanic. They're all controlled from that top of the pyramid, and most of them are designed to mind control us and to enslave us and to harvest from us. So, like taxation is basically legalized theft, right?
Yeah.
Um, so every institution, Child Protective Services trafficking pipeline. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's that. Oh, hi, puppy. So these are just some of the ways, but basically they have thrown that future shock is global traumas. So, for example, wars, okay?
Yeah.
So wars are always created by these people at the top. They're like, let's have a war here. We'll have this country versus this. And they fund both sides and they plan it all. And things like poverty or scarcity. There is no scarcity on this planet. There's more than enough abundance for everyone, but it's
Yeah.
controlled and then it's designed. And that's a trauma, okay? To not have a roof over your head or food keeps you in survival, which is what they want. It's a frequency they can control, right? All the psychological operations like 9/11, like the pandemic, and a billion more things that have occurred throughout our history have all been planned, executed. It's the Hegelian dialectic. They create the problem, they anticipate the fear, the reaction, they stoke that, and then they come in with their solution, which then leads to future problems. But the solution's what they wanted to execute all along. So our
Right.
entire lives, our hit on the history of our planet, have been manipulated in this way. And that's all they do. They traumatize, they traumatize, they traumatize. And so they keep us in a constant state of fear all the time. And what that does is that in your brain is it shuts down your prefrontal cortex, which is where you reason and think critically and make decisions in favor of the limbic brain and the brain stem. So we're always in panic, we're always in reactive mode,
Mhm.
and that's again MK Ultra. That's then they program us, they come in, they give us all these solutions. Everyone's so scared, they grab onto the solution, not realizing that this is something that is going to harm them. So that's a little bit of an overview of how, see, it's all MK Ultra. It's an
Yep.
individual trauma or it's a collective trauma. It does the same thing to the brain, to the psychology, and then yeah, unfortunately today you can look around and see that a lot of people are completely mind controlled and believe things that are a lie, like that we should obey authority, for
Right.
example, which is a biggie, or that the divide and conquer program, that this person is bad or this gender is bad or this religion is bad.
Yeah.
All of these are mind controlled programs to keep us fighting each other, fragmented within ourselves. And really, what they don't want is for us to rise to our true potential.
Yeah, because when we write, like when everyone realizes the divide and conquer, when everybody just lets all that fall and realizes we're all one, and then we rise, they're done. But see,
Yeah.
when you're still putting in energy into the labels, and that means religion, you know, politics, whatever, even like with medical, with disease, whatever, when you're still putting labels on things, you're still feeding into their energy. But when you don't do that, when you have like totally risen above and you like let all of that go, you've totally let go with the onion, as I call it, all the layers have fallen away. You've risen up and you've let it go. You've totally unplugged from the matrix. You've seen their plan. You've got it. You've got their number. You're not feeding into any of it. So when we all can do that together, that's when they're done. But I still see so much division. And there's two things I want you to talk about too, because this plays into everything we're talking about here. So super soldiers, because all these psyops, all these false flags, people don't understand. Like everyone that they catch, they all have that same look in their eyes. They all have that look. And it's like, I can't get people to understand these are planned events. It's everything that you're talking about right now. And then there was one thing that you and I were talking about privately where you were saying this was all a planned thing, that each country was planned to be a certain way. Like the United States was planned to be free, and Russia was planned to be this way, and China was planned to be this way. And, I want you to talk about that too, because that fascinated me because I was like, holy crap. Like this all has been planned a certain way, and we've all been MK Ultra our entire lives, and we haven't known it. Everything's been a lie. And so when people realize that, and you start doing your own research, you start digging, you start listening to people like you start researching what you're saying. I'm not saying that everyone needs to believe everything you're saying, take it for a fact. Like do your research. You're going to find out that it's true. So
Yeah.
that's
And
what,
those 2 points you asked about kind of actually go together
yeah.
because see, it's a little startling when you understand this,
Mhm.
but the entire world, all of our history, every single thing is theater. It's staged. It doesn't mean people aren't being murdered and killed and,
Right.
tortured and these things are real, but it's deliberate. It's staged, right? So, yeah. So one of the things that the Jesuits and Mengele, for example, really understood is that if you and the Jesuits, for example, they start torturing prior to birth. So they will say horrible things to the fetus or play loud music or stick things up into the woman and, mess around in there. Um, when you start with children even before they're born and then when they're born, it's a combination of trauma and then love. So it's, this is the perfect formula. So they traumatize children constantly and then they program in them when they go into that shock, there's a blank slate. So that's what we call an alter. And then they will program in anything they want into that alter. And so they can program many alters in a person. And so, for example, for a super soldier, they would do that process, and then that child would go through this training really from a very, very young age and be trained under trauma as an alter into this super soldier. And if you don't die from the abuse
Mhm.
as you're being programmed, what happens is you just rise to a certain level of strength. So you can be made, if you are strong enough to survive the process, into anything.
Yep.
Okay. So if the analogy I give is, so when the Soviet Union and China would send athletes to the Olympics, those athletes would like have an extra something because they were brutally trained since a very, very young age. Um, it's like that, but of course, exponentially enhanced. And so you can create, the Jesuits can train, and I've been trained in this too, in working with the elements, even like water, fire, air, earth. That show, that children's show, The Last Airbender, really kind of describes that. That's very real. And if you think that sounds kind of crazy, just think of the indigenous all over the planet who
Mhm.
do rain dances and these. I mean, they're working with the elements too. So the Jesuits can train. They train the children into speaking many languages, into extremely they even manipulate embryos and implant them. So extreme intelligence, they can train extreme physical prowess. So you can become anything. You can become a super soldier. You can become an assassin. So they will get trained in sharpshooting, in how to use knives, um, and how to poison, everything you can think of. They will be rigorously trained with trauma from birth.
Yeah.
And you know how that is. If you train someone, an athlete who trains over, you get really good,
Yeah.
right? So the ones the thing you referenced where, like somebody whoever shot, I don't know, let's just say JFK, they catch the person and it's a lone wolf. No, it's not. It's
Mm.
an MK Ultra person who was programmed, knows how to sharpshoot from a long distance, but also because it's an alter, the time, the date, or there's a code word, there's a something that is the person is these people have handlers, so the handler gives a certain green light,
Yeah.
however that is, and then that person goes into that altar. They've been programmed to do this task and they go and they do it. And then after they do it and they might be interrogated, they don't they don't know, they don't remember anything because now they're back in their front altar. So
Mhm.
that's very convenient when training spies and assassins.
Yeah.
Um, Children are trained, there's different names for the programming. So like the super soldier would be more it's called Delta. So you think of Delta Force.
Yeah.
I was trained in Beta, which is the sex kitten programming.
Mhm.
So these elites at the top, and by elites, I mean anyone in probably most people in the political game, definitely all the presidents and prime ministers, anyone high up in a global agency, anyone high up in a religious institution, anyone high up in the medical, educational, any system on earth, they're all pedophiles, okay?
Yeah.
So the pedophiles don't really want a sniveling, screaming, traumatized child to rape. So they train children again from birth how to sexually service adults and look all sexy and act, seem like you're enjoying it. So that's a different kind of program,
Yeah.
right? So you can see that in a lot of Hollywood people, like Britney Spears comes to my mind. I mean, I feel sorry for her because
Yeah.
I understand. So there's that's a type of programming. And again, you go into an altar and you execute your task successfully. So and then actually to
But
add to
they
that,
they do that. Stop here for just a second and explain. They do that so they can blackmail people. So
oh,
when
yes.
they use the children, they're doing this because when they get you to do things. So once you are in those positions, you either succumb to it or you don't. And if you don't, then they do away with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, they have blackmail tapes, pedophile tapes on everyone. I
So
wanted to add to that list real quick, though. They do this process to anyone they're grooming for a future leadership role on
yeah,
Earth. Okay.
yeah.
So, like Justin Trudeau or Bush
Mhm.
Jr. or any of these people will also have been MK Ultra to be the perfect whatever their role is supposed to be as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, absolutely. And yes, it's blackmail material, but also please be aware that you can't be in a privileged leadership power position on earth if you're not part of the global cult, if you're not part of the club. So in order to graduate to said position, you will have to participate in a ritual where you rape and most of the time also sacrifice a child.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you know all the times over the years where all of these like sex tapes have been released or whatever. Is that because someone hasn't went along with the plan, so they've released these tapes that they have on them?
Yeah, and everyone's expendable, and the cult, it's the pyramid. So they have layers of hierarchy. And if something leaks out and they want to contain it, they'll release something about a certain individual and send them to jail or whatever, because that person will take the fall so they can keep their secrecy thing going. So absolutely.
Some things that come to mind is like years ago with like Rob Lowe when his sex tape came out. And there's been other people, and I just kind of think like, did they, obviously they're in it. If you know someone's name, then they're in it, right? They've
Yeah, I would say yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I always think you don't get that big where people know your name like worldwide. It just doesn't happen because it's a
You
club.
don't. It's a club, and if you're a regular good person, you're not going to be in it. But I mean, honestly, you wouldn't want to be in it.
No,
But that's again, it's everything is staged. The world is a stage, and that
right.
goes to your other question. So yeah, so everyone you see running everything is put there deliberately. And,
Right.
if one person dies, they'll either, if they need that person to continue to be in that role, they'll put in a doppelganger or a clone or whatever, or they'll just replace. But it's certain roles that need to be fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so even at the level of nations, of countries, these people at the top of that pyramid, I mean, they run the whole thing. So, but they've divided them into these, it's like a little MK Ultra experiment in China and one in America and one in Europe. And it's just to see, kind of study what the different formula will yield in the population. So the model in China is actually the preferred model, and the one that would kind of be closest to the one world government, the transhuman type thing, because they created a very obedient, homogeneous population, and the social credit system that exists there, now they want to implement everywhere else because it was very successful there.
Yeah.
So if people spoke out in China, they would be blacklisted. Actually, their photograph would be shared widely, like publicly, so people could know that they had done a bad thing by speaking out against the system. And they can't fly on airplanes. They can't put their children in certain schools. I mean, they're punished. So that was that experiment, and it succeeded. And that's really the one they now want to spread that to the rest of the world. The United States was like people had more freedom, but they were also more poisoned here. The
Hmm.
United States has had the most poisoned food, water, air, electromagnetic frequencies here. I say here, I'm actually not in the United States right now, but in the United States is more toxic than, for example, the EMF tower stuff in Europe. So everything and then the work week in the US, the amount of
Oh,
vacation,
yeah.
Americans get 2 weeks a year, Europeans get minimum 6 weeks a year,
Yeah.
and often more. The US, just a lot more stressful and a lot more toxicity. And then the US population is quite obese and unhealthy.
Mhm.
They consume, they don't have free healthcare like they do in many other
Yeah.
countries. There are very few countries in the world where healthcare you have to pay out for.
Yeah.
The US is one of them. So that was that experiment. So yeah, different countries had different, these people love to experiment on us. They've done it for all throughout history. So yeah, so it's this idea is that it's all deliberately controlled, staged. Like, you think history just ebbed and flowed and these things naturally happen. No, they did not.
No, no. And they literally tell you everything they're doing because in movies, TV shows, and when you
Yeah.
don't say no, you're giving consent to them. Like
Implied consent.
I
Yep.
always think of like when you talk about the super soldiers or this, I think about the Marvel movies or whatever, because that's literally what those movies are.
Yep.
Is I'm telling you about the super soldier program. Like, because you always think, oh, there's no superheroes. Oh, yeah, yeah, there is, because we all have those abilities, but they just take those people and they train them to the max and bring out
Yeah.
all of those abilities. So, and then with what was the other thing I was going to say? There was another thing I was going to say.
Well, while you think of it, The Bourne Identity is a great
Oh
movie
yeah,
that shows you that, that this person was not in that altar anymore and couldn't remember, but the body knew how to do all these things. And there was
yes.
another one, a TV series that now I'm blanking on,
Blacklist.
where
Blacklist.
Blacklist shows a lot of stuff, but there's another one, a woman who comes out of a bag in Times Square covered in tattoos. What was it called? It'll come to me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they tell you everything because
Yeah.
they do have to, per universal law,
Mhm.
they have to have our consent. Not say no is implied consent because you're
Right.
not saying no. But so they put it up, everyone has commented on The Simpsons predicting things.
Yeah.
It's not predicting. They've been telling you that they're going to do this thing.
Right.
Because per universal law, they have to have our consent. And so of course, it's very devious and sneaky and not exactly playing fair, but that's the dark doesn't play fair. So that's how they do it.
Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about what we can do now to turn all this around? Because it is turning around, because we are in the fifth dimension. I call it the matrix so that people understand, but the matrix is dissolving. I believe it's about, depending on where you are in your awakening process, probably 48 to 58% dissolved right now. The Charlie Kirk thing helped really bring it down some more because you and I were talking earlier before that happened, and it was probably around 40%. I think it bumped it up to about 48,
Yeah.
58%. I think it's around 58% for me, maybe me and you, because we're a little further along in our awakening process. But what can people do? Like I always say, if I see something, I don't feed into the fear porn. I have no fear. I don't give my energy to that. I have strong boundaries. I always say, I do not consent. I do not comply, or I'll see something out there where people are like, this is going to happen, or this is coming. And I'll be like, cancel, cancel, cancel. Like, I try to, you know, smooth things out as much as I can. And when people are saying, I saw this or I saw this, and I'm like, why are you feeding into the fear porn? How can we help people like remove all of this? What are your tactics for that?
Okay. Yeah. No, that's the most important thing here is how do we, what do we do about this situation?
Right.
I want to start by saying the creatures, as my friend Rachel Vaughn calls them, these people at the top of the power structure are parasitic. Okay. They don't have that connection to the life force, to the light.
Yeah.
So they need us, our life force, our light, our energy, which they harvest by keeping us in survival, to create anything. They can't create anything on their own. So one thing they've done is they've mind controlled us in all these ways so that we will co-create as a collective the situation we have now, which I would call a hell on earth.
Right.
But that's the good news because we can co-create a heaven on earth if we want to. Okay. So one thing that we can do is just be very aware of mind control, be aware of the programs. So divide and conquer. So be aware that the news as such in the media, yeah, there's the alt media. That's just a media created for people who woke up to the mainstream. All of the media, you've got to be careful. You've got to understand that they're there to mind control. So I would not watch, like, know what's going on, but don't get all caught up in the stories. Or if you're going to watch the stories, then analyze them like a detective. Go, am I feeling a divide and conquer program here, like the Charlie Kirk thing, for example? First of all, Turning Points was a CIA affiliated organization.
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk and his wife are agents. That was all staged. They're both, he's somewhere else. That's what they do. They marry these people together. They would have brought them together to execute a certain agenda. So under again, it's theater, under Blue Donkey production starring Joe Biden, people were all mind controlled into that democratic thing, which the democratic liberal progressive thing has become basically Satanism light.
Yeah.
And then people on the right, there were some patriots and some people that were more awake, saw through this script. And so what did they do? The word deep state started to get thrown out in the popular vernacular. I'm giving you an example of how to see things, okay?
Right.
So all of a sudden people are aware there's a deep state. So what do? They're like, oh shit, people know. So they take that deep state word and they associate it with the left.
Hmm.
Then they bring you the savior. So watch out for the savior program in the package of red red elephant rides in on his white horse, and he's the savior in the swamp and saved from the deep state. Now that was cute, which is another clever psyop, is saying all these true things about children and all these things. They're releasing this information to those that already woke up to that information to reel them in And then Q says, trust the plan. In other words, trust the savior. Don't do anything about it. Park yourself in a corner and wait. So they bring in the savior, Donald Trump, who's supposed to fight the deep state. They're all part of the same deep state, people. It's a fake, it's a movie, it's a fake side. So there's the divide and conquer. And so then the Charlie Kirk thing is to get people all amped up into, oh, the left is bad and the right is good and they're killing people. It's all to harvest your energy also. So if you get all entangled in that and think that one side is bad and this side is bad, now you're prey to a mind control program. So be dispassionate, watch the events and go, okay, so what's the agenda here? What are
Mhm.
they trying to do? They want to divide me in this or this way. Is there a presented savior? Look for the Hegelian dialectic. Is there a problem that they manufactured? What
Yeah.
what are what reaction are they expecting, and what's their proposed solution? Like bring a lot of migrants into Europe, destabilize the countries, and then in the UK, well, we'll do a digital ID to weed out the migrants from the natives or whatever.
Yeah.
Look at things that are thrown out there with this eye to how are they trying to mind control me? So that's one factor. So you
Yeah.
don't fall for it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, you know, don't support big corporations. They own them all. They're all toxic for us. Every product they produce, from shampoo to tomato to clothing, is toxic.
Yeah.
Start to buy from your local farmers. Support people that grow food. Grow your own food. Make
Yeah.
your own clothes. Find people in your community that knows how to sew, and like start to unplug from the corporate matrix.
Yeah.
Back 100 years ago, that didn't even exist. Everyone grew their own produce, had chickens, made their own clothes, made their own beauty products. So
Yeah.
start to do that yourself, or get with people. Like if some person knows how to make soap and another person knows how to make clothes, and like start to build connections, start a small business, start making your own stuff, share it with people. It can be very, very small. The idea
Yeah.
of a business doesn't mean you have to like make a ton of money or register
Yeah.
it or whatever. You can just start doing things out of your own home. If you make bread and then tell all the people, hey, I make bread, and you can trade the bread for something they do that, maybe they'll mow your
Exactly.
lawn or whatever. Don't try and use cash. Try and pay for everything in
Mhm.
cash, because they can't
Yeah.
trace and track what you're doing. Okay. Um, don't consume don't consume from the medical system.
Yeah.
Find people who are naturopaths. Find people like Angie, who self-educated herself coming back from Lyme's disease and knows about detox and about supplements. You've got to understand what they've done to the soil. So we do need to supplement ourselves. So take your health back, unplug that factor. If you have children, for God's sake, do not send them to public schools.
Yeah.
Either find a school that's really alternative and find out what they teach. It's your child, okay?
Yeah.
That's your job. Or homeschool them, or find homeschooling co-ops, or hire a teacher who doesn't want to teach the pornography they now teach in schools,
Yeah.
and pay that teacher, get a bunch of parents together, rotate your homes. There's so
Yeah.
many creative ways, like unplug your children from that system. Um, if you're going to watch TV or movies, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. It can be very entertaining. And sometimes we've had a long day and we just need that. But study it like, ooh, oh God, they're really trying to mind control me there on that particular thing,
Yeah.
like laugh at it, just
Yeah.
understand what it is so you're not sucked into it. And connect, heal yourself. That would be number one.
Yeah.
We've all been traumatized, because you can't be on this planet run by satanic pedophile psychopaths and not be traumatized. So take responsibility. I had a pretty effed up childhood. I'm not going to be a victim the rest of my life because of what happened to me, because it wasn't my choice then, but it's my choice now, right?
Yeah.
So do whatever it is, get a therapist, study, read books, like do self-help, do whatever it takes, whatever kind of healing modality appeals to you, or a few of them. Get yourself untraumatized, heal, integrate yourself so that you're whole, and free your mind from the mind control. Now you're actually out of the matrix. You're powerful, right? Then get together with other people, right? So we're a community. You come to my monthly Zooms, Angie, and we just talk about different things. It's so nice to be with other awake, spiritually evolved people. Create that bigger community of like-minded people, join with others. And when you take care of your healing and you free your mind and you do things, spiritual practice, meditation, whatever it is for you, you'll start to remember yourself, your mission, your abilities will come back, your telepathy, your self-healing of your body, all these things, right? Just rise to that potential of who you are, and do whatever it is you decided to do when you incarnated here, because this is it. They have always reset us as a humanity over and over again throughout history, but this time
Yeah.
it's not going to work. It's the
Yeah.
Great Awakening. And you can do little tiny things like every day when you go out of your house, smile at someone, have a conversation with the cashier at the grocery store or whoever you run into, say something positive, like connect with your heart to another human being. Um, Notice the beauty around you. Plant a seed if somebody's a bit, mind controlled. Just ask a question. Don't be all aggressive, like, oh, you're a dumb sheep. That's not going to work. Uh, but just plant a seed, like, wow, just make an observation. Um, just and when we do us first and heal ourselves, it's like a light bulb that turns on, and then we just radiate this aura of light. And even if you're just standing next to another person, they're going to benefit from your light. So, and I don't remember the exact number, but there's that thing like one awake person is worth, I don't know how many hundreds of
100,000.
thousands.
100,000.
Okay. So it's powerful to do your work and to get yourself unplugged. I mean, there's certain ways that we still kind of have to participate in the matrix, but even
Yeah.
with work, like I know you're this way, Angie, and I'm this way, and it may not be very lucrative, but work for yourself if you can. Unplug from other work where they force you to fill in a 1040 or whatever, which
Yeah.
is you voluntarily agreeing to give part of your income to this machine, right? Try and do your own thing so you don't have to be part of anything external that can have any control over you. So I guess those are some ideas right
Yeah.
there.
And I will say this, like when you say work with a therapist, work with someone that's not plugged into the matrix like Max, because
Yes.
they will be able to help you in ways that not someone that like Max has 3 psychology degrees. She has her psychology, her master's, and her PhD, but she's not plugged into the matrix anymore. So the way she works, she helps you do that inner soul work, and she's going to help you be able to raise your vibration and your frequency, like doing that inner soul work to be able to help you. Whereas she doesn't just do talk therapy, she helps you work through it. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I am no longer willing to be licensed because that makes me have to obey the matrix rules, which I will not. I
Yeah.
will not diagnose people. I will not encourage anyone to take any med.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't even list my degrees after my name like a lot of people do, because yeah, that's just I just don't agree with the system. And so apart from the degrees, it's also just my own experience
Yeah.
and the way that I've been able to heal myself that I bring to bear,
Yeah.
and the abilities, the sort of, you know, psychic, if you will, abilities that I have where I can really see into people and feel them and connect and whatever. So which really we all have. We just have
Yeah.
to develop. So yeah, no, absolutely. That's another mind control program. Don't be fooled by somebody because they went to Harvard or they have, you
Yeah.
know, this or that degree. That educational system actually educates people into believing BS. So
Yeah.
it's better if you find, again, like I don't go to MDs. If I have any health issues, I basically call Angie, you know, because but I trust you more because you haven't been miseducated
Yeah.
in that system, you know, so think out of the box that way.
Yeah. Well, that's because Western medicine basically killed me and I came back and then I had to become my own doctor. So, and I'm medical intuitive and then I've done years of research. I've had to because when they would charge me hundreds of dollars to walk through the door and then thousands of dollars for crap supplements that weren't getting me well. They just care about money. And this is one of the things I was going to say is, people always hear about the 13 families and they think that's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, but there's 13 families above them, right? Or is it 12? Isn't there families
Well,
that we don't hear about that's above them?
there are, I wouldn't call them even humans that are
Well,
above
yeah,
them.
they're not
Yes,
human, but
the
they're very
the
old.
so-called bloodline families, they're hybrids from the non-humans. So they're very protective of their bloodlines and they can hold human form even if they have other entity, you know. And I know Sun Yin has had, I think maybe she's there now, but she's had trouble with the whole reptilian thing and initially because it sounds so crazy. But yeah, no, there's the people that are the most powerful you will never have heard of.
Right. Are they reptilian or are they shapeshifters? Or are they both?
Well, the people at the very tip top of the pyramid were not human. They were a variety. Some were reptilian, some were insectoid, like mantids, some were
Okay.
different kind of variety of human that's not at all like us. So they were dark races.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know how they talk about, because we have the tunnel systems all throughout the world, and they talk about, oh, they're building these bunkers and stuff. Well, they've had them forever.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
as the matrix is dissolving, and I was talking to Rachel about this the other day, Rachel Vaughn, and I said, there's something coming in February because Rachel and I have always seen as 2027 as being the cutoff. But I told her, I said, I've been having this vision where there's something with February because I was telling you about it, but now it's something bigger because the cliff for February is jutting out even more. Remember when I was telling you like February was sticking out?
Yeah.
Now it's jutting out even more. And I'm seeing more people on this cliff. So I see March sitting back here as like a white gold with April. So I'm feeling there's something with February, and her and I are going to do another live at the end of December. So I'm hoping I'm going to get more information on this. I'm feeling there's something, the cutoff very well may be in February 2026 with like souls needing to make a decision with this in the matrix dissolving even more. Because I had seen that by February it would be dissolved like to like 75%. And for most of us, if it's already like for me and you, like at 58% right now, it may be closer to 100% for us in February.
Yeah.
So there's something coming. And if that's what's coming next, in February, then I don't know. There's,
It very well could be a very positive thing that's coming
oh,
in
I
the
know it's
sense that,
positive,
yeah,
But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is like all of these dark energies, they're going to go underground, right? So they're going to stay there and we're going to have to make sure they stay there because they could come back, right?
Well, if we raise our level of, there's a reason they've kept us in survival frequency because that's their frequency.
Right.
But once we get at a higher level, they literally can't exist anymore here with us. So
Okay.
from what I can feel, the people at the tippy top of the pyramid, they're not here any longer because the consciousness is already too high. Too many of us have woken up and done our work and are
Yeah.
vibrating at a level that it's so I think because the top layer isn't here, that's why you see so much chaos. Because all the next layers, of course, they're very egoic people. So they're like, ooh, I'm running the show now. But
Yeah.
they never did have all of the information. It was always compartmentalized and sort of different pieces of the hierarchy had different tasks that they do. So I think a lot of what we're seeing is the chaos is that they're trying to still execute the parts of the plan that they were told that they had, but they don't have their overlords anymore. And in a psychic way, when I was a child, I would see this gray veil around the planet. And then, I don't know, like 15 years ago, I saw it have like big holes missing. And a couple of years ago, I don't remember exactly when, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So things have shifted. So there's more light, there's more consciousness, and as more, so it's remember this is a theater production.
Yeah.
So like their stage is on fire, their curtain is falling, their props are toppling over, and people are starting to see. It's like the Wizard of Oz when, the Dorothy pulled back the curtain. It was just this little guy pretending
Yeah.
that's going to become more and more obvious. So I think the matrix is just dissolving, and that's how they kept this whole thing going.
Oh, yeah.
So as we unplug, but we're going to have to create something else in its place, of course, that's the
Right.
important thing. So yeah, so I have no doubt, I think it's accelerating. So I'm very optimistic. The thing
Yeah.
is that the people that don't know all of this are going to be a little stressed out,
Yeah.
because for them it will be really, really abrupt. For us, we've been like watching this play out for a long time.
A
So,
long,
we're going to have to help those people.
right. I am noticing that manifesting is kicking up more.
Yeah.
I had
There's less
placed
blocks.
there is because I had placed an order for something and it wasn't supposed to get here till Monday. And so I received an update and it said your new tracking or something. And I'm like, ooh, it's coming today. And I looked and it's coming today because I had been trying to manifest it to get here quicker because I was out of some stuff and it's coming today. So I'm noticing that like when I'm manifesting things, I'm able to get things to happen quicker. So I know everything happening, it's to me, it's not scary at all. I'm optimistic about it. So,
Good. Yeah, me too.
yeah,
We're 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 doing it. It's not, when something old falls, I mean, it has to fall because it was designed to harm
right,
us and trap us, but it's scary. It triggers us. But what's next is better.
right.
So we're gonna,
Well,
it's gonna get better you know, every
I think
day.
everyone can start creating, manifesting the new. That's how we create the new.
Yep,
We manifest.
yep,
So clean air, clear skies, no more chemtrails, clean, clear water, no chemicals, no heavy metals, toxins, clean, good food, because I literally, when I go to the store, there's soy is in everything. All of the stuff, like there's so much crap. Can't eat out, like all the restaurants, everything's got so much crap in it. It's like, nope, can't have that, can't have that. I don't because I eat so clean, and to me it's not worth it for the side effects that I have. So, we just if we all manifest it together, it will change like that. So I feel anyway. So
I agree.
Are you ready to take some questions? See if anyone has any
Yes.
questions. All right.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions for Max? I'm sure Sun Yin does. She always has such intelligent questions.
Kim Louise unmuted herself.
Oh, let's
Yeah,
bring.
I just wanted to say so much for your love, your light, your bravery, and for everything that you do. And that I don't know how you do what you do, other than you're motivated by love and light and wanting to heal. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being such a beautiful, loving, brave, powerful soul, and for doing what you do. Because I'm sure it's been a difficult journey, because you get a lot of backlash from people who are still believing that they've got the answers, and still very much caught up in the divide and conquer mentality and the mind control programming, even though they're partially awake and aware, and then they're probably trying to tell you how you're wrong. So thank you for holding the line, and everything you say just makes perfect sense in a really dystopian way, but it helps all of us to understand what we can do, what we need to do, and what we keep, and to remind us that nurturing our heart and soul and unplugging and healing, that's, if we can all keep doing that, then we can make a big difference. So thank you for being the light and the brave, beautiful soul that you are.
Well, those are very kind words. I often don't know how to take that in very well. I'm still learning, but yeah, even my own healing process coming back from all of that, was pretty brutal. And that's the thing. If people say that they're spiritual and it's a new age, airy fairy, guru-ish thing, but being spiritual is being a warrior. It's fighting. It's fighting the satanic system and doing the hard stuff, which is, I mean, when we have to look into our shadow, there's things about ourselves that we're like, ooh, that's not too savory. It's just having the guts to go to push forward and to do what needs to be done within ourselves and outside of ourselves. That's what I admire in people. It's not easy to do. If it were the people, otherwise more people would be doing it, but it's the road to freedom. Yeah.
100%.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Max, that's why most people don't do the work, because you have to look yourself in the mirror and see all the ugly, and then you got to walk through the fires. It's hard. Do you have a question, Sunyin?
I don't have a question. Maybe I do. Oh, let me get this. I just kind of want to add the because I also another thing is I'm glad that you guys talk about manifestation, because that's what I'm interested in these days. Because I'm trying to leave the job that pays me well. And so I kind of need to figure things out how to manifest my life. So different way. So anyway, so I think one of the mind control I think a lot of people do have is that one other thing is we think that one of the blocks that we cannot manifest, or I couldn't manifest, is because I have this fear of whatever. I have the block in me that I have to be less, so that I can so that I will be needing God. So what if I'm perfect? What if I'm just like, it's just like as divine as God? Then we don't need God. So to maintain the connection with God, we have to be less than perfect. I think that's actually, I realize that's actually programming, mind controlling in its own kind of different level. So it's like I need to change that so that I should realize I don't need God. We are creators. We are also divine. We are the creators. So and we also should be able to create our life. And so we are so mind controlled to think that we cannot, we have to live our life in a certain way. I think we are not as creators, but as obedient subjects. I think that's actually the mind control we all are going through. So I kind of wanted to add that. And this question is, I was wondering about, you guys talked about the altars. Then super soldiers, and it's like, Max is here. I understand that you had the prenatal contract, whatever it is, that you came here, went through everything, and came out of it and healed, and then you're talking about it. Maybe it's all in your contract, maybe, I don't know. Then what about these people who are alters, who are super soldiers, who are just being the puppets? Do you think they also had the prenatal contract? They would actually do this, and so that's a little bit confusing to me, because it's like, why is it? I don't think that actually anyone should be able to make a contract that they would actually do evil in the soul level, and then so they are doing this, but someone like Max is actually find a way to do something with that. So I'm like, so what? I mean, so I can't. I guess what I'm wondering is that, what's the difference between the ones who choosing the light, and the one who's choosing the darkness? So I don't know if this is a question actually. So
I think I know what you're saying.
yeah.
It's not that first of all, I would say we all chose to incarnate on this planet and be alive right now because we wanted a front row seat to the liberation of this planet, of us, of our consciousness. It's kind of like if somebody, and okay, I don't advocate the military because it's run by these same people, but as a metaphor, it's like somebody joins the military because they want to serve. They think they're serving their country, and that's a whole nother thing, but just as a metaphor. It's not that I thought, ooh, let me go and get tortured, no, it's more like, how can I help? How can I serve? Because the memory that I have pre-incarnation was of being at this global meeting with all these other beings from other places in this universe, and the Earth being a very significant planet and being overtaken by the dark, and what could happen here as everything is interrelated would affect everything else. And so many people volunteered. Okay, so maybe it was like a team of maybe sort of like elite warriors that volunteered, but really also everyone who's here volunteered to come for maybe different reasons. So I figured that I would have what it took to not get killed or crushed or destroyed by incarnating in one of the darkest areas, the Vatican. But if you're going to be a warrior, you go behind enemy lines, you figure them out, I now can expose these people and wake other people up because I went through that experience. I can also help people to recover from trauma because I recovered from trauma. And when you're not in the physical, believe me, as a physical human, I have many times regretted that choice and thought, oh my God, why the F did I decide to do this? And been angry. But when you're not in the body, it's very different. Like you see it in a much higher, bigger perspective, and you see it in a collective way, not so much an individual way. So you think like, oh, and it's exciting. It's like, I'm going to go and this planet's going to turn around. I'm going to be part of this amazing transformation. So there is a disconnect between when you're in a physical body and when you're not. And we're different, there's the human you and the divine you and, all of that. So I chose to come here and help. And partly that was a selfish motivation because where I was from was going to be in danger or affected by what was going on here, right? So that's part of it too. Um, so I hope that explains it. And with I totally understand that programming of like, well, a God, I have to be obedient to God. But see, the way I look at it is all of us are God. How does God change something in a physical realm? Being an energetic entity, right? Being through each of us. So we're all God, but expressed through Max or Sunny and Angie or whoever. Like we all are particular, like all one thing, version of that thing, of that godness, of that divinity, expressing itself in a very limited brain, human form that has to eat and sleep and whatever. That's everything that I'm doing, everything that you're doing, everything that Angie's doing is God changing things on this planet. See? So it's not arrogant. That's who we actually are. It's the confusion is the ego and the Satanism, and they've made us in their image, and thinking like, oh, I'm better, or it's not that at all. It's so I don't know if that helps, but that's how I see the God thing, and that's what religion has done as a mental mind control program, is to create this perception that this thing called God is this other thing outside of us that is mightier and bigger than us, that we're humble nobodies, sinners, and we have to pray and go on our knees and beg for forgiveness. And that's a big effing psyop, and one version of the psyop is, oh, it's a man on a throne in the sky, and the other version of the psyop, which came later, because like they like to play all the sides, is that it's a goddess and it's no, it's neither of that. It's all of that, but it's a different way. And that's what the being called Jesus actually said. That's inside of you, right? It's who you are. So of course they took this guy who was a freedom fighter and an anti-Satanist, and they co-opted his message and turned him into a symbol of something. It's a perfect satanic inversion for who that being was and what they turned him into.
Yeah, thank you.
My mom's got her hand raised. Thank you, Sunyan.
I hope I say this coherently, but
That's your mom?
Yeah.
yeah, I won't be on camera. I don't. I'm not.
Oh,
I don't look.
mom.
She's
I don't look
Galaxy
like that.
Tab. She don't put her name on.
Yeah, I'm just Galaxy Tab today. I just want to tell you, Max, how much I admire you for your courage to speak out, because I think that people like you, Angie, Rachel, and Kim, so many more, are guides to humanity, to awaken people. And by you going through the experiences that you have, um, hopefully will open people's eyes to the evil that's in this world. And I just applaud you so much for having the courage to speak out. And what you were saying about uh, why we were here and everything, I really believe, because in my own life, I've been through a lot of experiences. And then when I went into nursing, I saw why I went into nursing. And it wasn't so, I mean, I've always, cared for people and all this. Soft heart, empathetic, all that. But I saw my experiences that I had went through in life align with how I could help them navigate through what they were going through. And it still happens to this day. I mean, people call me to talk and whatever. But I just wanted to say that you guys, what you're doing is phenomenal. And I mean, I see it, I know it, and I believe it, all of it. So, and I also wanted to add that the movie that you were talking about a while ago with the girl opening up with all the tattoos,
Yeah.
the name of it's Blind Spot. It's a
Oh,
series.
right.
Yes, it's a
Yes.
series. And I started watching, I'm just into a few of the episodes, and some of it's kind of hard to follow, but all the tattoos on her body is a map that
Yeah.
takes them different places, and I'm thinking, okay, what is it actually going to lead to? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Watch the whole thing. It's really quite good.
Yeah,
It's a kind of a good twist somewhere
yeah,
towards the end there. But yeah, thank you. That's the name of it. And there's so many. There's so
yeah.
many movies
But
that portray that kind of thing.
Angie laughs at me because I like to watch reality shows, but I watch them because I'm watching human behavior.
Yeah.
I
I
usually
can't
can pick
stand
out,
them.
because
I'm like, how do you watch
I
this
love
stuff?
I love psychology and everything though, and I would like to watch human behavior. And you can I mean, you can, like, that is so fake. This is so fake. If you can see through what they're doing, and yes, it's a production, it's a show, and a lot of movies are, but like Angie said, they're telling you what they're doing, what is really there, and what they've done. So to me, it's kind of like it's eye-opening if you look between what they're trying to, like, entertain you, but you got to read between the lines of what they're actually telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, I find those a little stressful. I don't watch them because it's like the most devolved of human behaviors.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
like, but it's fascinating to study. It's like the ego in its full
yes,
glory, right? And
yeah,
like low consciousness,
yeah,
sniping but I watch certain shows, because again, you don't have to be a Nazi about anything. You can watch stuff, but watch it with an eye towards, it's so fascinating when you start doing that. Watch it to see how you're being mind controlled. Like I
yeah,
remember
exactly.
when I watched like Grey's Anatomy, and I would think, wow,
Yeah.
that's Satanism. Like they zero in on the surgery and the blood and the guts, and like I won't watch that part of it. Like I just close my eyes, but they're trying to make that normalized. Or
Yeah.
even, there's there was the COVID episode, and everyone was, all the things they were saying was pure mind control. And I was like, oh my God, that's so disgusting.
Yeah,
And I'll be shouting at the TV when it's something that's clearly mind control. I'll be like, that's not right.
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's interesting, as
it
long
is.
as you don't get as long as you see it for what it is, it's actually quite educational.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, and you don't get caught up in it and sucked into it as
Right.
to believing that is reality, as opposed to what they're trying to make you believe. So,
You go
Yeah.
back and watch old shows like X-Files, Supernatural. They literally are a roadmap to everything that's
yeah,
been happening and is happening now. They literally were telling you. And it's like, it's pretty good educational. You were being entertained. But I always knew there was some truth to those shows. I've watched them several times because I'm like, these are, they're literally what's happening right now. There's
yeah,
even one episode of Supernatural. It aired in 2009, but they were like talking about, they were time jumping in the show. They time traveled and they talked about how there was no toilet paper. This was in 2009. And they're like, I don't know what it's like in the future, but you need to have toilet paper. And I told mom, I'm like, did you hear what they just said? Like,
yeah,
and in 2020, we had everybody was like, that was what, 11, 10 years before it even happened. So they plan all this stuff. So when you go back and you watch shows and you're open mind, you're awake, you see everything has been planned. You see everything has been a
Yeah.
lie.
The Hunger Games is a good one too.
Yes.
That is, it hasn't occurred because I think everything's falling apart and it's not occurring. But
Yeah.
the plan was to abolish, as you know, it's a globalization of the world, and the plan was to let go of all nations and have regions only. And Trump let it slip at some point after he got put in office this time, where he said, "Oh, you know, that Mexico and Canada are going to be part of the U.S." Well, he's talking about the zone. That was going to be a zone. The Europe made the EU, the European Union, because that was going to be another zone. So they did that a while back. So the Hunger Games illustrates that kind of thing where there's no countries anymore. And that was actually part of the plan too. So they both tell you, but they also subconsciously slide in there and normalize it. Like, how many movies were there about pandemics, Contagion, and this one and that one? Like, and they're so then when they execute that plan, you're sort of already conditioned, like it's already gone in there, and it seems more, yeah, they prepare you also for what they're going to do.
Oh, and
Exactly.
aliens
It's
too.
all by design. It's all
Look at
by
how many,
design.
well, they've been having commercials with aliens and stuff and movies for years, for many, many, many years, going way back to the 90s. But the commercials and stuff, it's been getting more and more and more. When they normalize it and you get used to seeing it, then when it really happens and they allow that to come in, because it's all planned,
What
we're not the only
what
ones here.
about this year they were saying that there was going to be alien contact.
Oh,
You
that was
guys,
part of the plan.
yeah.
That's their holographic tech that they have. Those airplanes that supposedly hit the Twin Towers, that was a beautifully executed holographic thing. They have, like I said, they have really good technology. So they were planning an alien invasion, holographic, but we would have thought it was real. And then these supposed alien things were going to be firing on us, and then they were going to fire back, and they were going to use that as a mass terror thing, just like 9/11 and all the other ones, again, to hurt us into their final agenda. But they haven't executed it, which again tells me that that's why I say they're failing, because that didn't happen and that was supposed to happen. I heard that plan when I was a child.
Yeah.
If they could have, we would already be in vaccine passports, digital currency, social credit system in the United States. They keep talking about it, but guess what? It has not happened. And I think that they're not able to make it happen. I don't think they have control of certain things the way that they used to.
No.
And so, anyway, yeah.
I think there's too many people that would reject that. There's a lot of them that is in the mind hive that they think, oh, that would be so easy and everything just to show a digital passport, implant in your arm or wrist or hand, and they would go for it. But I think more people would not go for it. So
I
I don't
think
know.
there's too many people awake now, and I think
Yeah.
there's too many people that are raising their consciousness and vibration that they can't execute the things like they used to because I can feel it in the energy. There's like a resistance. There's like a wall there. It's like every time when I read something like that, it's like I'm like, no, it just feels fake. It feels like they're putting it out there, but there's just like it feels like fluff. And I just, it's like, nah,
Well,
it's not
they're
gonna happen.
smacking into that wall, and that's the resistance of the consciousness of the people that are waking up.
It's just when Rachel and I did our last live, there was three main timelines, and there's that 20% over here on the black, and then there's the gold, and then there's the half gold and gray, and that's where a lot of the people are waking up, and they're on that timeline where they're going to be moving to the gold timeline. But Rachel and I, we've always seen there's going to be like 20% that never wake up. So that may be the mind hive thing that you're talking about, where they want that convenience or whatever.
Yeah.
But the 80% of humanity, no.
Well, anyway, thank you very much, Max, for doing this and enlightening people. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. It's good to meet you, Angie's mom.
Yeah.
Linda. Thanks, Mama. All
Bye.
right. Sunyan has her hand raised. There we go.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Um, so I agreed when Mick said that the top, top of the top, the bad guys are not here. And I think the like middle people are kind of like here still. They're kind of doing their job,
Mhm.
and so like a lot of truth tellers, people speaking some truth about, like the Israel and then Vatican and so those people are coming out and say stuff. And then I think I see Max as my anchor, right? So if she says that's actually like speaking the truth, but it's a psyop. So I believe that's actually a psyop. My question is, I think in a way that this top is gone. So the middle tiers are kind of like, they have a lot of factions. I don't think they're totally united. So I think they're kind of
Yes.
fighting against each other too for
Yes.
whatever the power they think they have. And so how much of it is actually like sort of controlled psyops, and how much of it is actually they actually hate each other? They're kind of trying to attack each other. So that, Mafia Faction A is kind of say something about Mafia Faction B, something true about what they do. Is it also what's happening? How much of it is actually more controlled psyop thing, or actually that they actually do fight against each other? And so I was kind of wondering about that.
I think they are. I think there's always been different factions, but because the leadership at the top isn't there, they're vying for that top dog position against each other because they're all egomaniacal, psychopaths. So they're fighting each other, which is to our benefit. So great. The more they fight each other, the faster they go down.
Right.
And I also think, all of these things that are staged, like let's say this Hamas peace or war or whatever, all these factions are again working for the same people above them. And so, but historically, they would get paid a lot of money for doing a war here or staging a terror act. The CIA would call up one of their minions, like in ISIS, and say, do an attack here. But people need to get paid to do their dirty work. So they also have like subcontractors who stir up chaos and do things and blow things up, but these people all need to be paid. And I think that's another factor. I don't think that probably the people at the top had the keys to the financial system, but now because they're not here, I don't think these people have the ability to pay all their contractors to do all the dirty,
Yeah.
bad things across the planet. And at some point, the promise of I'll pay you later, do it on credit is going to wear thin. And then that's going to be helpful to us because there's layers and layers. So there's people that are willing to do the dirty work of the higher ups. They don't get their hands dirty, aren't going to be willing to do those things at some point if they're not getting their benefits and their pay. So I think it's a combination of factors, but absolutely I see the factions fighting each other 100%. Yeah.
Well, and they're
Thank
fighting,
you.
so they want us to fight. So they, and we don't need to be fighting because it's their fight. We're not in their club and we don't want to be in their club. So if we just stand
True.
back and watch them fight, they'll fall much quicker.
Get some popcorn.
I
Kick
know.
back, put your feet up. Let's mock them. They don't
Right.
like that either.
No,
So,
no. So
did you want to say something else, Sunyan?
I think that's it. Also, like Kirk, what's Kirk, what was his
Charlie
name?
Kirk?
Charlie,
Yeah, and then the wife came out and all that fake cry and all that was so, I mean, they look so, I mean, if you're gonna do it well, right? Or
But
just don't do it at all.
see, they're not even doing it well anymore.
Yeah.
I know
That's
it's like
how you know the top
yeah, I mean,
layer isn't
they
there
can't
either.
even lie that well. So it's like,
No.
wow, what's happening?
They fucked it up. I mean, the ring was on one finger, the ring was on the other, the bullet thing was here. Then right away, somebody came out with that movie, that the
Snake Eyes.
politician Charlie Kirkland, who was shot in the neck on the same date. You know, it's like, yeah. Now their psyops are getting sloppy, and combined with people getting more conscious, they're being exposed right away after they happen. That
Yeah.
didn't used to be the case, so that's very heartening.
Yeah. That I think that shows how much the matrix has dissolved. Because
Yeah.
before this wouldn't have been a thing. Nobody would have been able to see it. Nobody would have been able to put the puzzle pieces together. But the puzzle pieces are coming together much quicker after an event happens. I mean, a lot quicker. And even in the weeks or days afterwards, like it's coming together much more quickly, I think. So it's very promising. So
It is.
well, Max, I want to thank you for being here today. This has been a very enlightening conversation. And as always, I always learn so much from you, and I'm sure everyone else has. I'd love to have you back again.
Of course.
So,
Anytime.
you guys can find Max on Unbroken.global, her website, where she has her seminars that are available for purchase. She's going to have more seminars coming up that will have to do with mind control and cult, the global cult. And what else are you coming up with your seminars? I forget.
Well, because Sun Yin asked, I'm going to do one, and I've been meaning to do one on like the top of the pyramid, the origins of humanity, the history,
Okay.
Not that I claim to know all
thank
of it,
you.
but
Thank
what
you
I
so
do
much.
know. Yeah. Yep.
All right. So guys, she has a newsletter that she puts out every month, and you can sign up on that on unbroken.global. And then she has her monthly Zooms that she does. Sometimes she does them twice a month, so you can sign up for that on unbroken.global. You can find Max on Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, BitChute, and now YouTube. She's back up on YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
And I write on Substack too.
oh, on Substack too. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Max. And everybody, be sure to like, share, and subscribe this video, and we'll see you next time.